May I respect to Venerable Patham Vachira Muni, Director of Vipassana Rural Institute, Chulalongkorn Raja Vidyalaya University. May I respect to Venerable and most Venerable, and good afternoon to all of Vipassana practitioners and also participants in the room. And in this afternoon, we're gonna listen to the Dhamma talk in English and practice Vipassana meditation in the afternoon program by Pra Ajahn Suchon from Varapanya Meditation Center, Scotland, United Kingdom. And now Pra Ajahn is here and ready for sharing the Dhamma for us. So I would like to invite Pra Ajahn Suchon from Vipassana, from Varapanya Meditation Center to tell the Dhamma and read out practice Vipassana meditation in this afternoon program. Please, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. Namato Ratanataya. May I pay homage to Triple Zen, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to Prathama Vachiramuni, the director of Vipassana Institute, Chulalongkorn University, Thanachan Pamahati, Director of Planning and Development of the Vipassana Institute, respected Venerable Mahasangha, and their meditation practitioner. So first of all, I would like to thank everyone who have taken this retreat. On the retreat, we have to learn a few basic things that we have been caught up in. First, we have to eliminate certain things, and after that, developing what needs to be developed. In terms of elimination, first, we have to leave all our responsibilities, all our worries, so-called palibodha, and that hinders our practice. If our mind is still caught up in the works, travel, relatives, and jobs, it would not help us to gain much insight in it. Now, since you have taken this retreat, although it is online and nobody is watching you, I would encourage you to leave all your responsibilities and duties while you are on this retreat. If you are genuinely willing to get something out of it. Because practice makes perfect. And Satipatthana meditation or Vipassana meditation that we famously know, without practice, unlikely that we will understand. It's not about thinking, it's not about investigation, it's about experience. knowing what's going on, seeing as you know that's taking place, and ability to reflect wisely. This wise attention to the objects that is arising is the key, and which always changes. So that's why the practice of an insight meditation is not about any other objects, but it's about ourselves. So with a great faith and a confidence to the Buddha, we have offered ourselves at the beginning of the retreat that I dedicate myself to the Lord Buddha. So we have to check our faith. The word that you have said, the vows that you have taken, are you taking it seriously or just a word of mouth? It's like a parrot. So that's why it's really important that you have generated this great faith and confidence. So you have offered yourself to the Buddha in a full potential. And not only that, you have also offered to the great masters who are going to lead you, to teach you to practice. And here, never take the masters in a very light way. And further on, remember that the vows and the offering that we have taken, it is securing ourselves. It is energizing ourselves to practice. And after that, the further vow that you should be taking is, now on, I am going to take this opportunity that I am given, will practice diligently to understand the reality pertaining to itself. And with this, we will be able to further develop our practice. So that's why it's very important to check our faith and the confidence and our intention and motivation to practice. If it's only just for the word of mouth, then from the beginning we are losing the plot. The intention, motivation is different. And with that, you will get nothing. You would not be able to experience the reality pertaining to itself that's happening in our body and the mind. And after you have taken away things that you have to take away or eliminate, all the polybodhas, and then you have done something that is required to do, which is the cultivation of the the mind towards the right environment for the practice by offering ourselves to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha and the masters. And with this, now is the time to practice. And the Buddha said that in order to practice meditation, one has to go to the forest or under the trees or empty huts. It's called Aranyagato wa Rukkamulagato wa Sunyakarakatowa. wa. And that basically means we are not taking any responsibilities, but dedicating ourselves to pay attention to the phenomena that arises at front. And a person who is practicing in this way at that very moment, and this is the path that you are taking, which leads to the liberation. That's why Buddha said in Satipatthana, Ekayano ayang bhikkhave makko satipatthana. This is the path that leads to the practice of a satipatthana, leads to sattanam visuddhiya. Nothing but the purification of beings. Soka parideva, and so on. Overcoming the sorrow and lamentation, disappearance of the sufferings, pain. And further on, attainment of the right way that leads to the Nibbana. And that we will find the moment when we began to eliminate things that should be eliminated. And walking on this path that brings the more insight into it. Now, Satipatthana is the way. Right? Satipatthana is the way where in this practice we become mindful of the object at front. And we able to follow that object without any breaks. As soon as that object arises, then we able to pay attention to that object immediately, without a delay. And that's how it becomes the Satipatthana. It's like you are gluing two items and put it together. When these two things put it together, then it sticks so firmly. And that is the Satipatthana. And here, where do we pay attention to it? So we are paying attention to the body, our body. Pay attention to our feelings. Pay attention to how are we interpreting the feelings, the body, our relationship with the feelings and the body. And with that, when we carefully pay attention to it, then we will realize the realities, so-called Dhammanupassana. In order to do that, we can't practice only superficially. We can't have a mind which is wandering all around. The simile is given like the pumpkin, the hollow pumpkin. When you throw on water, it just floats. So we are not paying attention to in that way, but we are paying close attention. So as we pay attention to the rise and falls of the abdomen, we are fully present there. Not only the physical appearance of the rise and fall, but our mind is there at present, face to face, all the time, whenever it arises, whenever it is there. An ability to maintain that awareness by noting. That's what we call, whenever something happens, you know that, and you make a note of it. So when it arises, you are making a mental note of it rising. When it falls, you are making a note of it falling. So maintaining that awareness of rising and falling continuously without any breaks, without any losing. And then that brings the great samadhi. And here remember, although we are using this rising and falling abdomen as the primary object, and the rest, whatever comes, using it as a secondary object doesn't mean that we always have to be with the rise and fall. Rising and falling of abdomen is just the foundation that we are standing on. Is the foundation where we are establishing our mind. Is the foundation that we are arousing the mindfulness and awareness. That basically means as you are standing on that platform, whatever other objects arises, whatever other phenomena arises, we pay attention to that phenomena rather than discarding it. We are not practicing samatha meditation. If we are practicing samatha meditation, yes, we will be discarding the rest of all other objects that arises while we are paying attention to the main object. But here we are practicing Vipassana meditation based on Satipatthana. That basically means we are paying attention to whatever phenomena that arises. Doesn't matter what, it's a matter of your attention, your awareness. That's why in a practice of a meditation, in the rising and falling of abdomen, although you are paying attention to it, doesn't mean that you always have to be with it. It's just a home base. It's just a home that you come back and establish yourself, getting the energy. And then again, whatever other phenomena arises, knowing that. And here, just knowing is not good enough. So we have to make a mental note. That's why when it rises, we are making a mental note that it is rising. When it falls, we are making a mental note of a falling. The first thing in here, what we have to take in mind, take it into our mind, that take away the perception that you think it's not the teachings of the Buddha. Take away the perception that this is not taught according to the Tipitaka. Honestly speaking, any technique that we are practicing in a modern day was not taught by the Buddha. But these are the means to get to the path that the Buddha taught. So, if you want to really know whether it is or not that are taught by the Buddha and it's available in the scripture, first put your full effort and practice and find out for yourself. So during this time, take away all the doubts, this chatting mind, and follow the instructions as the teachers have given you. The moment when you are following and practicing in accordance with the instructions, and gradually the whole Satipatthana falls into your plate. And gradually you will be able to realize what is the reality and what is the real meaning of the practice. And that practice brings from the practice of ourselves. And in a practice of a meditation, as you were taught and as you are learning, it involves 4 different postures. We are paying attention to the 4 different postures. And each 4 postures, we're trying to understand 4 Satipatthanas, Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, and Dhamma. We are not separating these 4 Satipatthanas, each part that we are practicing. So it involves standing. It involves prostration, which again normally nowadays because of online retreat is not taught. It involves walking. It involves sitting, and it involves sleeping, or lying down, meditation. So we have to have a right understanding about standing position, walking position, sitting position, and lying down positions. And each postures, how are we practiced? And as you may known, or you may have been studying, in a standing position, we just simply stand and pay attention to the entire body which is standing. So standing straight, but not rigid like the soldiers. We are not bending our head to look at the feet. The instruction is that looking ahead around 30 to 40 degrees or 2 or 3 meters ahead. And with this, you have to make sure that while you are standing, you're observing your standing position, not anything else, and making a mental note of a standing. While you are making a note of a standing at this moment, again, do not conceptualize it at all. We are not practicing to just get the calmness by observing the concept, but we are observing the phenomena, the entire body standing. I'm mentally reciting standing. So mind and a body is fully united, inseparable this moment. You're aware of the entire body, you're standing. And in standing position, we are taught to practice at least of 3 times. So standing, standing, standing. And then we shift from standing to walking meditation. In the walking meditation, again, before we start walking, we have to initiate ourselves that, okay, now I'm going to do the walking meditation. And the reason behind here that our mind works so fast. At the beginning, you may not be able to understand that why do we have to initiate ourselves to change from one position to another. But later on, as you develop your awareness, as you develop in your meditation, you realize that how important it is. That these simple tasks and little things, if we are very careful of it, then we will be able to notice that these are the gaps where always the kilesas comes in. And by continuously noticing it, we are basically closing the door where any kilesas can come in. So that's why we initiate ourselves, and you will be able to notice that how mind is changing, shifting from standing to walking meditation. And in the walking meditation again, there are certain stages that we have to follow. Now again, forget about the why there are 6 stages. Now if you go into the scripture, there is the reference to the Visuddhi Magga, but do not go into that much. Some may say that Buddha simply said in a Satipatthana that Gacchanto va gacchami pajanati, as I am walking, I know that I am walking. But further on, there is a saying, Yatha yathanam panihitam tatha tathanam pajanati. Whichever the body is, in whichever state, we know that is. But here, in the Mahachula, we are taught to pay attention to the different levels of a walking meditation. And if you're genuinely practicing, you also will able to recognize that why these are different levels of a walking meditation. So in a walking meditation, what we learn? So we learn at the first stage, saying right goes thus, left goes thus. So remember, we are working with our sanya, the perception of the right and the left, to begin with, to get the familiarity with it, the practice. So when we say right, we have to have a perception of a right foot, and then a movement of the phenomena as we move in. So move forward. So right moves thus. Left move thus. So this is the first stage. And here we have to remember the concept of the right and the left. We have to remember the phenomena as we are moving. And then we have to remember making a mental note. So this is called conscious awareness. There is no wobbliness. There is no delusion. There is a mutual synchronizing. The action that you are taking and the mind which is noting become a one. And at the end of the pathways that you have, and you are doing standing. Again, similarly, 3 times. Standing, standing, standing. And before turning immediately, again, initiating ourselves, intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn. 3 times. And here again, as I have said early on, the reason behind we are initiating ourselves is simply to watch the thought process. And we will be able to notice that how it is changing. And it's become so beautiful to notice that. The mind shifts from standing to move. And in the turning point, it's called turning, yeah? Intending to turn, intending to turn. And here, the turning point, turning. The moment when we mentally say turn, we are lifting our foot and in is placing on the floor. So turning, turning, turning. And here, 3 pairs of a 6 move. Not a big move, not a short move. 3 pairs of a 6 moves. And that completes the full turn. And again, you are practicing standing position. And standing, standing, standing. And again, intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. And you start walking. So with this process, as you gain, if you are on a retreat, proper retreat in front of the teachers, they will give you different levels as your meditation improves, as your concentration develops. And the rest of other levels will be introduced. The second level is lifting, placing. And here, remember, no concept now. There is no right and a left. There is only lifting, placing. Only the phenomena is there. And here again, forget about your right or your left. All matter is the phenomena as you lift and as you place. So this is lifting, placing. Lifting, placing. As you lift, your foot should be lifted. As you place, as you make a mental note of a placing, foot needs to be placed. And that's how you are following side by side, along with it. So you're consciously aware of that, continuously. Right, yeah? So the first one is right goes thus. Second one is lifting, placing. And the third one is a little bit slower. And here it's basically slowing your consciousness to see the fast moving the mind. Yeah? So lifting, moving, placing. This is the third one. Lifting, moving, placing. And the third one, yeah, on the third level, in the first level becomes quite similar. If your mind is calm enough, then you will not be able to differentiate this. Although you're probably practicing first level, but your mind already on the third level. And the fourth is heels up, lifting, moving, and placing. So lift heels up, your toes are still touching the floor, your heels are up, and lifting, moving, and placing. And here again, do not make a long walk, long pace, just relatively small. The fifth one is heels up, lifting, moving, lowering here. And now here we will be able to notice this lowering, although it may be very short. But when we practice, as your mind becomes calmer and calmer, awareness becomes stronger, you will be able to notice this lowering space, although it may be 2 inches. But when your mind becomes strong, awareness very sharp enough, you will be able to notice that that's a very long lowering. So, heels up, lifting, moving, lowering, and touching. That's the fifth one. The sixth one, not just the touching, but we are pressing. And here again, when we press, we realize that the entire body's weight being pressed on that. And then another foot is ready to lift. So we see this phenomena, how the mind and the body separates within this practice of a walking meditation. And that is the practice of a Vipassana meditation. Ability to notice mind and the body, the materiality and the consciousness. We will be able to separate between this body and the mind. So that is how we can develop in walking meditation. So that's why do not think that walking meditation is a simple task. It may gain concentration a little slower, but once established, it establishes very firmly. Compared to sitting meditation, you can gain the concentration quite easily, but within a short moment, there will be a lot of distractions arises. So after sufficiently walking, normally half an hour walking and half an hour sitting, or 1 hour walking, 1 hour sitting. In this process, and after that, rather than sitting immediately, again, you have to initiate yourself that I intend to sit down. So initiating yourself, intending to sit. And then slowly as you sit down and mindful of. And after you have sat, checking yourself calmly, mindfully, in upright position, resting all this body and mind, and saying ujung kayang panidhaya, sit with the straight, keeping your body straight, upright position, but not resist and not tension. And after that, the Buddha's instruction is parimukhang sating upattapetawa. And here, parimukhang sating upattapetawa basically means having awareness at front. Now remember here, having awareness at front doesn't mean paying attention to the nose, or doesn't mean paying attention to the rising and falling of abdomen. Whatever phenomena arises, your mind is there at front to pay attention to. Whatever arises at front of yours, you aware of that. And here, when our mind and the body calms, the first thing we will be able to recognize is the rising, falling of abdomen, which is happening, which is very gross and which is very easy to see. And this is called empirical object that is visible as we sit down and close our mind, close our eyes. Mind is aware of that object. And there is a rising and falling of abdomen takes place, and it's happening, naturally happening due to the breath coming in and going out. And in this moment, when you can note, or when you observe, or when you can see that there is a rising happening, we should pay attention to that rising motion of the abdomen. And this is the object of a meditation. And when it falls, again, we pay attention to that falling process, the motion of movement that is taking place in our abdomen. And here again, it's not just a knowing, not just a seeing. We have to make a mental note so that our mind will not go off somewhere. There is no delusion that I am watching, but you are thinking something, or I am doing it, but mind is somewhere else. No, that's why noting is very important. Making a mental note, rising as it rises, falling as it falls. So rising, falling. And remember, the concept, the body movement and the consciously making a mental note should be synchronized, should be go hand in hand. When abdomen rises, you're making a mental note of a rising. When abdomen falls, you're making a mental note of a falling, not one or another. And in the process of noticing this rise and fall, we have to remember that we are not forcing it to happen. Do not breathe quickly or make it slower so that I can see this rise and fall. Remember, we are practicing to know the reality pertaining to itself. We are not making it to happen. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. All what you're doing is simply be. Be here and now, watching what's happening and having awareness of things that is taking place in the present moment. In the present moment. That's called Parimukhang Sating Upattapetawa. Do not try to gain this concentration on this rising and falling of the abdomen, and you're making your breath too long or short. So do not regulate the breath. Do not control the breath at all. Let it flow naturally. Do not make it different than as normally it is taking place. And the moment when you are doing in this way, what happens is that gradually mind becomes more and more conscious of the phenomena that is arising and taking place at front of us. And obviously, the more you practice, the better you will become. And with this, I would like to invite you all, join with me to practice meditation. And this, we will start from walking meditation. And here, I will show you some demonstration, and then you can practice together. In the walking process, again, when you are sitting, we have an intention to stand up. Now you have to be mindful that you are standing up. And then after you have stood, you have to make a robes or your clothes properly, and you're mindful as you're making your robes and as you're making your clothes. And then putting your hands properly. And after you have placed your hand properly, slowly start walking. So let me demonstrate to you to start off the standing position and walking meditation. So I would like to invite you all to make a way and stand in a decent distance so that we can practice walking meditation. And then later on, I will guide you to practice a sitting as well. So please join with me to practice the walking meditation. So I will show you that as we stand up, once we have stood, third, our robes will not be properly done. So suppose I just stand up, and here I need to adjust my robe. Then slowly be mindful and then adjusting. Very slowly with a mindfulness, and then placing your hands. And here again, in the placing your hand with a very mindfully, and placing either at the front or at the back. So I'd like to invite you all to stand up and practice walking meditation. So we start off from standing position, and then after that we'll practice the walking, the first stage of the walking meditation. Suppose now I am standing here and I will be walking. So as you're standing, your hands are properly placed. Your eyes are focusing on around 2 meters ahead. And mentally reciting, standing. So as you mentally recite the standing, you're observing the standing body, entire body standing, and relax. In this moment, you may check any tensions around your body, any tensions around your neck or shoulder. Just let it relax. Standing, observing the entire body. Feel the sensations in the entire body. Standing. After 3 times of observing the standing position, we will practice the walking meditation. The first stage of the walking meditation. So prepare yourself, intending to walk. Initiating yourself, preparing yourself to do the walking meditation. Intending to walk. Intending to walk. Now shift your attention to your right foot. And as you lift, right foot, saying right goes thus. So as you lift right, and then it goes forward, and then placing it thus. Shifting your attention to the left foot, right, as you say right, you're lifting, and then moving forward, placing, and then thus. So right goes thus. Left goes thus. Right goes thus. Left goes thus. Right goes thus. Left goes thus. right goes thus. Last step, and standing. And you're observing the standing position. Standing, standing, standing. Now again, initiating yourself to turn. Intending to turn. Intending to turn. Intending to turn. And slowly turning. Turning, 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 turning. Once fully turned, again standing. Observing the standing position and mentally make a note. Standing, standing, standing. After 3 times of making a mental note of a standing position, initiating yourself to start walking, intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. And shift your attention to the right foot. Left, right goes thus. So as you lift, you're saying right and moves, goes and thus, placing. So left goes thus. Right goes thus. 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 Last step, left goes thus. And here again, standing position. Observing the standing position by observing, saying mentally, standing, standing, standing. Initiating yourself to turn. Intending to turn. Intending to turn. Intending to turn. And slowly turn. So 3 sets of the 6 moves. Turning, 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 turning. Once there, you have done a complete turn, again standing position. Observing the standing position, mentally make a note of your standing position. Standing, standing, standing. Initiating yourself to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk, shifting your attention to the right foot, and as you lift, right goes thus, left goes thus, right goes thus, left goes thus, right goes thus, left goes thus, right goes thus. Left goes thus. Right goes thus. Left goes thus. Right goes thus. Last step. Left goes thus. Again, standing position. Standing. 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 Intending to turn. Intending to turn. Intending to turn. Start turning. 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 Standing. 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 Intending to walk. Intending to walk. Intending to walk. Start walking. Right goes thus. Left goes thus. 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 Right goes thus. Last step. Left goes thus. Standing. 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 Intending to turn. Intending to turn. Intending to turn. Turning. 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 Standing. 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 Intending to walk. Intending to walk. Intending to walk. Start walking. Right goes thus. Left goes thus. 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 Last step. Right goes thus. Standing. intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn. Stop turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. Start walking. Right goes thus, left goes thus, 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 right goes thus, left goes thus. Last step, right goes thus. Standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn. Stop turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. Stop walking. Right goes thus, left goes thus, 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 right goes thus. That's the step. Left goes thus. Standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn. Stop turning, 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 standing, standing, standing. Now we'll practice the second stage of a walking meditation, that is lifting and placing. And here there is no concept of the right and the left, only the phenomena that is there. The phenomena of rising as you lift and placing as you place the foot on the ground. So lifting, placing. So first of all, let's practice the standing position and initiating ourselves to do walking on the second level. So standing, 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 intending to walk. So initiating yourself, intending to walk, intending to walk. Shift your attention to one of the foots and practice walking meditation as you lift, lifting, as you place, placing. So lifting, placing. Make sure you are not making a big space. Lifting, placing. After placing, you need to stop completely before you're lifting another foot. So lifting, placing. So complete stop. And lifting, placing. Another complete stop. As you lift, mentally make a note, lifting. As you place, mentally make a note, placing. A complete stop. So lifting, placing. 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 Last step. Lifting, placing. Standing, standing, standing. Intending to turn. Intending to turn. Intending to turn. Turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. Start walking, lifting, placing, 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 lifting, placing. Last step, lifting, placing. Standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn, turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. Start walking, lifting, placing, 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 lifting, placing. Last step, lifting, placing, standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn, turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. Start walking, lifting, placing, 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 lifting, placing. Last step, lifting, placing, standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn. Stop turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. Start walking, lifting, placing, 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 lifting, placing. Last step, lifting, placing, standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn, turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. And here we will practice the third level of walking meditation, that is lifting, moving, placing. It is quite similar to the first stage, only difference is there is no concept at the right or the left. So, in the third stage of walking meditation, as we lift our foot, we are lifting, and as we move forward, moving, and as we place on the floor, placing. And let's start from the standing position again. Standing, observing the standing position, feeling the sensations throughout the body. Standing, standing, intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. And start walking, lifting, moving, placing. Making sure that as you lift, you're lifting, as you move, you're moving, and as you place, you're placing, and mentally make a note of it. So, lifting, moving, placing, 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 lifting, moving, placing. Last step, lifting, moving, placing. Standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn. Start turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. Start walking, lifting, moving, placing, 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 lifting, moving, placing. Last step, lifting, moving, placing. Standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn, turning, 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 standing, 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 intending to walk, intending to walk, intending to walk. Start walking, lifting, moving, placing, 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 lifting, moving, placing. Last step, lifting, moving, placing. Standing, 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 intending to turn, intending to turn, intending to turn. Start turning, 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 standing, standing, standing. Now we will do the sitting meditation. So initiate yourself to sit. It's basically telling our mind that I'm shifting from walking to the sitting meditation. And which rather than abruptly going and sitting, we initiate ourselves, saying, intending to sit, intending to sit, intending to sit. And in normal cases, you will be sitting here now, but because the sitting position is over there, I will be walking closer to the microphone So slowly walking towards your seats. So continue practicing. You may do the first stage of walking towards your sitting position. And you arrive the sitting position closer, you're lifting your hands and slowly releasing and getting ready and slowly bending, lowering. You can make all the mental notes, lowering, lowering, touching, touching, pressing, and then adjusting your seat slowly with the mindfulness, adjusting your position and putting your hands properly, the right hand on top of the left hand, and checking your sitting position, whether you are sitting upright position or not. It's called Ujjung Kayang Panidhaya, so upright position. And bring your attention to the front. So Parimukhang Sating Upattapetawa. And whatever phenomena that is arising in your body, as breathe in and breathe out, the phenomena of a rising and falling abdomen takes place. Being mindful of that phenomena as it rises and as it falls. And mentally make a mental note of it, consciously aware of that. Rising, falling. So as it rises, mentally make a note, rising, and when it falls, making a mental note of a falling. So rising, falling. Rising, falling. Now obviously your mind wanders. In those situations, whenever mind wanders, at that moment, do not worry. Observing that wandering mind, acknowledging that my mind has distracted, simply make a mental note that distraction is thinking, 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 or if that's a pain, simply aware of that pain, 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 or if that's a itchiness, 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 or whatever phenomena arising. And sometimes you may not be able to make a name for it. Then that moment, simply perceiving it. So perceiving, 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 or simply seeing, 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 and then let go after 3 or 4 times of making a mental note. Let go and back to the present moment awareness, that is a rising, falling of abdomen. So rising, falling. Making sure when it rises, you're making a mental note of a rising. When it falls, you're making a mental note of a falling. Rising, falling. So continue paying attention to this rise and fall. As it rises, as it falls, consciously aware of that rising and falling. Making a mental note, rising, falling. Whenever mind distracted, do not worry and do not struggle. Do not pull yourself that I'm supposed to be paying attention to the rise and fall. Why am I having these thoughts? But rather, observing, acknowledging, noting, and let go. So observing distraction, distracted mind, acknowledging that my mind is distracted from the rising and falling of abdomen to something else, making a mental note of that, and let go. And back to primary object, a home base that is rising and falling of abdomen. So rising, falling. So rising, falling. Diligently, persistently, paying attention to this rise and fall. Applying full attention, called Atapi. You're paying full attention to this process of the rising, falling of abdomen as it rises and as it falls. An ability to be mindful of it continuously, without a break, without losing it. And as you're paying attention to it with a full attention, there is a possibility that a mind would like to think about something, would like to open your eyes, would like to move your hands or legs. Those moments, do not move, do not change, do not open your eyes, and see what happens. And you will realize the mind will trembles, shakes, like a fish out of the water searching for the water. You wish to change your mind, you wish to change your hands, open your eyes, but consciously we are denying that access. And that's how we see this mind trembles. We've been feeding this mind 24/7 days and all the time. Whenever it wishes to do something, we are responding it. We are reacting as it wishes. But here, as we are practicing, we are not responding it. We are not reacting to it. We are simply observing it, not letting it to overcome and control our consciousness, but we are mindful of it with a great effort. Atapi. So ardently paying attention to any phenomena that arises without missing. When it rises, it is rising. When it falls, it is falling. And you're consciously attached to it each time when it arises without losing. Uttapeti. Your mind is there, establishing on the phenomena that arises at that very moment until it fades away. And that's how the mindfulness and clear comprehension completes the Atapi, Sampajano, Sativa, the three principles completes. Not only just the watching, not only just the seeing, but ability to wisely contemplate on that completes the three principles, helps to remove the taints, helps to overcome the hindrances and find the path and fruition. It's very essential to make a motivation not to move your hands, not to move your legs, and not to open your eyes. Doesn't matter what's going on. With the right intention, paying attention to it with the right attitude that these are aroused, will remain and will pass away. All what we are doing, we are standing on the format of arising, falling, and observing these phenomena as it arises and fades away. So simply, we are observing, acknowledging, and letting go. So observing, acknowledging, and letting go. And this letting go happens once we have fully noted. So that's why mental note is very important. Whatever phenomena arises, when it arises, making a mental note, rising, rising, falling, falling. When thoughts arises, thinking, thinking, thinking. Whatever phenomena is there, simply pay attention to that phenomena. You may want to give up. You may feel lazy. So it's a sloth and a torpor. The hindrance come. That moment, energetically, urgently paying attention to this rise and fall of abdomen. As it rises, making a mental note for rising. As it falls, making a mental note for falling. You may have a desire to open your eyes and do something else. Do not let this mind to take control. It is a time you are becoming a master of your own mind, not let yourself to be the slave of your mind. So stopping all these doors, whenever it tries to do something, opening eyes, moving hands and moving legs, sitting still and not acting at all, ardently paying attention to that desire to move. So rising, falling. Be trustworthy to yourself. If you can't trust yourself, how could you be able to trust others? And how can you make others to trust you? So in a practice, we have to develop this trust that now this is the time of a practice of a meditation. I am fully dedicating this time to pay attention to all the phenomena that arises as it arises, a natural phenomena, not as I want it to be, by not opening eyes, by not moving hands, but mentally paying attention to the phenomena that arises. So rising, falling, rising, falling. You have to fully dedicate that this is the time to practice. This is the time to train myself. And if you are not training and doing something else, then you will not be able to understand how to train this mind. You will not be able to understand that how difficult to tame this mind. So checking your vows, checking your motivation, checking your intention, and practicing diligently. Whatever phenomena arises, as it rises, as it falls, observing, acknowledging, noting, rising, falling. Always make a mental note, and this mental note should be synchronized with the phenomena that arises. When it rises, making a mental note, it is rising. When it falls, making a mental note for falling, and this should be synchronized, rising, falling. Rising, falling. Making a mental note every phenomena that arises, thoughts arise, mind distracts, knowing that distraction, knowing that thought, making a mental note, thinking, thinking, thinking. Each time when you make a mental note, you're fully aware of that. You become mindful of that object. And when you make a mental note, you are comprehending that phenomena. And once again, there will be a thought that want to open your eyes, move your hands, move your legs, maybe thought of reading a books, maybe thought of watching the telly, the thought of doing your reports. Hold on. Just tame this mind like a wild horse. And this is as a duty you should be performing as a good student. If you can't spend this time to practice, how can identify yourself as a good student if you're doing something else? You're neglecting your own responsibility and duties. And when you have to teach, how could you be a good teacher? So it's very important that we fulfill our duty as a student and fully dedicate yourself to practice. And with that practice brings a fruit. And that fruit is not for anybody else, but you will realize how difficult to train this mind. And during this training process, what sort of difficulties you have to face and how to overcome these difficulties. A simple task is observing, acknowledging, noting, and let go. Any phenomena that arises at front, observing them as they are, as it occurs. Acknowledging the reality of it and making a mental note. If that's a thought, thinking. If that's an itchiness, itchiness. If that's a sound, hearing. Or if you can't name it, perceiving. Perceiving, perceiving, and back to the primary object. So with this, we are fulfilling all three principles as the Buddha instructed us to develop. And that is Atapi Sampajano Satima. Ardently paying attention to the object that arises with a full attention and with the right attitude. As your mind quiets, calms, you may experience different sensations in your body. Sometimes you may feel your face, some kind of animal, insects crawling in. Sometimes you may feel the sweatings, the itchiness. In those cases, rather than moving your hands or reacting to that, watching that sensation. Leaving the primary object and paying attention to that sensation. Do not struggle that I have to pay attention to the rise and fall, and the rest of other sensations go away. Rather than having this thought, leaving the primary object, the rising, falling, and paying attention to those sensations. Mindfully paying attention to it, observing, acknowledging, making a mental note, and let go. Eventually, the letting go takes place. The rising, falling. Rising, falling. Rising, falling. Always have this effort to make a mental note. Otherwise, we will be going to the trance of a samadhi, getting into samadhi, shut down. So making a mental note keeps us continue aware in the present moment. Keeps us alert to the phenomena that arises. Rather than going into the trance or fall into the trance, encouraging yourself to make a mental note of each phenomena that arises, rising, falling, rising, falling. If our noting slows down or lethargic, it can make our mind lethargic too. It takes us into the trance or sleep mode. In those cases, actively engaging and making a mental note, rising, falling. When we actively engage, our awareness becomes sharp, an ability to comprehend the phenomena that is taking place. So rather than shutting it down, we will gain the light, so-called aloko udapadi. Light arose in our mind and see things as they appear, that awakens us to observe, acknowledge, note the object that arises. So making a mental note is very essential to keep our mind awake and alert to the phenomena that arises. So whatever happens, whatever occurs, make a mental note. Rising, falling. Even the moment when you feel drowsiness, the very moment when you realize that there is this trance state of the mind just occurring, making a mental note, oh, this is a drowsiness, oh, this is a trance, or perceiving, okay, I'm perceiving this, and that drowsiness goes off. Trance, we will be coming out from that state of the mind, and alert and awake to the phenomena that arises in the present moment. Whatever arises, parimukham, around us, sating upattapetawa, establishing our awareness on it, mindfully aware. The rising, falling. Rising, falling. The rising and falling of the abdomen is the primary object, our home base that we stay, our core, the essence of the developing concentration. Meanwhile, whatever other objects arise is known as a secondary object. All those secondary objects, initially known as distractions, we will observe them objectively as they are, not as we want it to be, and making a mental note. So I use the formula called observing, acknowledging, noting, and let go. And back to the foundation. Rising, falling. So rising, falling. And shift your attention to your eyes. Bring your attention to note the sensations around in your eyes. What sort of sensations you can observe in your eyes? Any tension or happiness or a lightness? Or relaxation? And watching your mind, the intention to open your eyes. Mentally make a note, intending to open your eyes. Intending to open. Intending to open. Intending to open your eyes. And slowly opening up your eyes. And whatever you see, make a mental note, seeing, seeing, seeing. The light enters through your eyes. And you will be able to notice the first thing that you see. We can't perceive it at first, but slowly we see that and able to perceive it. So slowly open your eyes and noticing the light coming through and what object you see the first, and observing your perception, what you make of it. So this is the end of today's practice. So thank you everyone joining with me. And I wish you all the best and continue practicing for rest of the days. This is the beginning of the retreat. And I hope that you continuously practice the rest of this another 9 days with the right effort and the right intention, with the right attitude. Eventually, you will gain further knowledge. With the blessings of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, may you all be well and happy, and wish you all the best rest of the retreat. So thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll see you tomorrow for 1 hour.
Okay, so on behalf of Vipassana Rura Institute, Mahachulalongkorn Rajavidyalaya University, I would like to say thank you to Prajaan Suchon from Varapanya Meditation Center, United Kingdom, for sharing lots of knowledge and let us practice some Vipassana meditation today. Thank you very much for your kindness, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.